Hi there. Welcome to BlitzlearnDaily number 21. Happy to have you here. Today I will elaborate a little bit about the first chapter of the rock-solid framework for your psyche during difficult times, how to believe in the future, which was suggested by the audience on Instagram. First of all, don't forget please to like and save the post, this IGTV video. Please don't just only like the posts or save them, also click the like button here. It is not a lot of effort and it is the currency in which this is traded, because then obviously the algorithms will show it to more other potential viewers, and then the number of followers increases, and this will make me happy and very motivated to continue the process. However, even if you don't do it, and even if this doesn't happen, I will continue with that, because I decided I will adjust this so long until it gets really good, and I have to learn a lot, and it's not perfect, I know that. I started to experiment with a lot of stuff, but I will not stop unless it is really good. So please hit like, save, and do me this favor, share the post also, tell your friends. Okay, enough of that. So I said that if it could be really useful to you, you have to decide to have, for any circumstances, whatever would happen in the future, a very solid mental framework to rely upon. Many people are trying to do that or create that. I think some things I saw are good, but if you really want to do it rock solid, I think there is a lot of effort to put into it. So that's what I do. Now, rock solid meant to me, and I tried to do it, if we start at the most miserable place. So imagine your psyche is like a model with many different parameters, and all those different parameters can have a good influence on your psychological state. For example, let's imagine you're a Buddhist or a Christian. Your belief might strengthen you and help you endure miseries in life, whatever, which is very good and useful. I'm happy for you. But to have a really rock solid framework, I thought if we eliminate first all these parameters, and the only thing we leave over is the ultimate reality that we know of and which is scientifically proven, the existence of the cosmos. And if we start to look at the cosmos as a place to live, we start to realize, okay, there's some depressing facts about it. It's a rough place, it's very cold, sometimes very hot. Just within this tiny little atmosphere around this planet we can live, but anywhere else we are most likely dying very quickly if we go there. Also, it gets worse. The time, right? So we imagine time as an arrow. So I'm here now, then there is the past, that's where the arrow comes from, and here is the future, this is where the arrow goes to. That's how we imagine time. But time is maybe different. It could also reverse, or it could be in a loop, or physicists, they have many different concepts of time. But what we could do is, if we talk about our own future, imagine it like this. There was most likely the Big Bang. When the Big Bang happened, all of a sudden very dense matter or energy exploded, and in the first milliseconds it was a hot soup. And there were probably not yet particles. We know that the smallest particle we know are quarks, like bosons, Higgs bosons, and these things, lepsons, whatever they're called. There's a standard model for this. But this soup was maybe just matter in a in a more fluid sense. But then very rapidly it's expanded, and in the same time it cooled down. So space was kind of created through the energy or the matter that extended, and whilst the matter cooled down, things started to form. So probably quarks, or maybe they started to form simple atoms like the hydrogen atom, which is one proton and one electron. So the simplest form of atom we know, and it is composed of quarks, etc. You might know that or remember that from chemistry, that there is a periodic table and you have all the elements. So the first element is hydrogen, and it has one proton and one electron, number one. So the simplest form. And then over the eons of time, the 13.772 billion years that have, universe already been in existence, the forms of matter got more complex. There different elements added up, the atoms, whatever clusters happened, and it got more complex, and then it started to form kind of rocks, and they collided, and gravity came into the gravitational force started to build chunks of matter, which then resulted in stars and planets, etc. So as a matter of fact, everything gets continuously more complex, and it expands, still due maybe to this explosion of the Big Bang or some other force, dark matter or so in the universe. It is expanding, and we're in this process, and it gets more complex. That's the entropy. Entropy is a term for things becoming more complex, and more phenomena emerge, more chaos is introduced, which is the case. Also solar systems and asteroids going through, and more things are happening, higher forms of life. This is more entropy, it's more chaos, although it seems to order like us. So our time, we follow this time, we only know this state, and this state obviously made Earth habitable. Now imagine if the universe all of a sudden would be very large and then start to contract, so go backwards, then what would happen? Maybe the time arrow or one of the time arrows would reverse. So time would go backwards, but it would not mean that water, a glass of water falling down, that it would there be shades and then forming into the glass and jumping up on the table and the water spilling into the glass. Not like that. We wouldn't really know how it would be, but what we most likely know, it wouldn't be habitable. So either this is the end of our most extendable future, or the other possibility would be that once the stars fall into black holes because they exhaust of their energy, so they fall into itself, become very dense, so that light cannot escape, and they become black holes. And black holes also radiate a tiny amount of energy out, because there are some antiparticles at the surface that leave the black hole. Therefore also they evaporate, and the universe would still expand. Also then it would be totally inhabitable. You can check it in the movie that I inserted into my blog on blitzlearn.substack.com. Please go there, subscribe. You can watch there what would happen. So this would be the ultimate end, and if there is no spiritual world, we have to assume that, first of all, you and I, we are going to die, but maybe we find solace that maybe our kin and our kids are going to survive, our genes are passed on. If that doesn't happen, we maybe are, satisfied with the fact that plants are surviving and life, and it is possible for life to emerge again. So also that gives a certain satisfaction. But in fact, what most likely will happen, that everything dies, right? Even if on another planet life would exist, which is not in our line of genetic evolution and therefore quite foreign, I would say. But also then we could say, oh yeah, there is life and meaning and existence, but we have to assume that everything ends, everything ceases. So later in my writings, we can introduce then other systems of belief, etc., that give maybe a bit more hope. But let's start at this point. If we make it to become fulfilled with meaning, happiness is the wrong word, but if we can find meaning in this dire, desolate, cold existence, which will only happen in, from a perspective of the universe, a tiny fraction of the time we will be here. And so what can we have then to find meaning? Also, when you would be a big personality and, history would know you, also that compared to the time of our existence is a very small amount of time, so doesn't mean a lot. I come to the conclusion, the fact that you are here, the fact that you can perceive, the fact that you can know this, that this ultimate worst case could exist and is scientifically kind of proven, although we don't know whether spiritual worlds exist. This fact is so amazing. It's not a coincidence, right? Because it's evolution, so it's not random or a coincidence, but it's also not a design. But it's so amazing that you exist under these circumstances, that just this knowing and this perceiving of that very existence and just this tiny moment makes this moment worth ultimately more than it ever could be by believing in any spiritual worlds, although that can help, and we come to that later in this guide to framework for the psyche during difficult times. But let's start with the worst possible, that it is really insignificant, but it's significant to you and your world because you create it. Arthur Schopenhauer once said, life is a constant process of dying. So this goes into this directionality of the arrow pointing to an ultimate end. Yes, life is now, and we will probably die, all of us. It's a constant process of dying, but you create your own world with your perception, and you are the creator of this world, which is just a sub-entity of all the other entities that compose then afterwards the huge cosmos. And this is by itself so astonishing that it already is very meaningful to live and to exist. And luckily, there are many more ways to find meaning in life, systematically applied, that we will come over the next weeks too. So, subscribe to the blog, please, save the post, hit the like button, share it with your friends, and reach out to me and let me know what I do wrong, what I should do better, give me feedback. I'm happy to learn. I'm far from perfect, and I want to make this a great experience for you after all. All right. Have a good one, and see you tomorrow.